Hi YouTube, it's been a while since I posted a video, so today we're going to take you along my journey for replacing this radiator, 2006 Ford Explorer. It's leaking through the seams, so I'm going to have to get it replaced here, as well as the transmission cooler is leaking as well. So you can see the seams at the top here, pretty wet, and it kind of continues like this all the way around the entire radiator. So I'll go ahead and show you guys my method of getting this replaced. So first things first, here are the tools you're going to need. Excuse the mess in this garage, it's not mine. It's heated, this is Minnesota, so gotta work where you can. So first thing I got here, fan clutch wrench set. This is for a 4.9 Ford E-Series or F-Series trucks, but the only thing that really matters actually is that you get a 36mm wrench. The big fork looking wrench here pretty much will work with any vehicle. I've used the same exact set on my GM, no issues. The big deal is going to be the smaller of the two, which will fit on the actual nut that holds the fan to the pulley on the engine. So the fan does have to come out to get the radiator replaced, because it will get caught in the shroud otherwise. Another thing you'll have to have is this right here. And this run both of these actually at AutoZone, and this is just a quick disconnect set. Already went down there and just trying getting it out with that one. This is actually going to be the biggest pain in the ass of the entire project. I'd say if you're going to do this, try getting your transmission lines disconnected first. Otherwise, it's not going to work very well, in your favor at least. If you don't want to go the rental tool route, because this, I think, I rented it and ended up being almost $120. I also picked up these two just in case. So these are from Harbor Freight. So this set here is pretty much the same as this guy that comes in here, as well as these plastic ones that match up with those guys. So I think this was $5 and this was around 10. So if you don't want to go the route, or if you want to actually just buy the tools and have them, you know, the quality difference between these that are labeled OEM and in this red box versus these Harbor Freight tools are pretty much exactly the same. They're made of cheap metal, and you know, you can bend them pretty easily. So it's not really a quality thing here. I just thought I'd show you guys both ways of doing this. So first things first, go ahead and start draining your coolant and getting those lines disconnected if you can. Then you'll have to move on to the other things. I'll be back once I get to those. So yeah, stay tuned. Alright folks, I'm back. So went ahead and removed the overflow jug. There's a 10mm and an 8mm holding it. Pretty much for this entire job, you will need 10, 8, and a 15, if I remember correctly, for the actual bolts holding the radiator to the frame of the vehicle. But other than that, it's a pretty quick and easy job to do. I already pulled off the fan. Pretty much you jam the big fork against the 4 small bolts here, and then you use the smaller 36mm wrench on the big nut that attaches this to the vehicle itself. So in my case, since this is a 2006, anything 2006 and newer is going to have a viscous clutch. It's electronically controlled, built into the fan clutch assembly, which has to be unplugged from here. There's also a bracket that bolts up there. It's an 8mm bolt. Got to remove the power steering reservoir up here. That's 8, I believe, or 10. And then there is a special Christmas tree bracket here that jams into there and holds this AC line. So you'll want to remove that as well. You could just unclip it. I decided to unclip and actually pull the Christmas tree out to make sure I don't mess up my AC line. I also removed the upper radiator hose that's tucked over there. But yeah, beyond that, pretty straightforward. There was two of the transmission cooler lines here. These guys here that are held into the side of this bracket. Down here there's a hole that this Christmas tree pushes into. So I used a pry bar, pull that out, slide that over to the side. There's one more set of clamps that go into the lower radiator shroud here that holds the lower radiator hose away from all the belts and all the other fun moving stuff, but that can be unclipped from the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and pull the lower hose as well as those transmission cooler lines. Again, with this particular model, anything 2006 and newer, there is the transmission cooler built into the radiator on this model. Don't believe it's the same on the V8s, but I could be mistaken. But I do know the V6s do have the transmission cooler built into the radiator. Anything from 2000 to 2005 do not have that. They have an external transmission cooler that runs with the same lines, the same positions pretty much, but it sits in front of the radiator, not inside of the radiator. And I may end up doing a video on that later if the radiator ever fails in the Blue Mountaineer that I've also done work on this channel before. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pull the bolts for the radiator hoses and the transmission lines and get started on that. I'll be back in a bit. Alright guys, back here. Quick little bit of information that I kind of forgot since the first time I did this radiator on the same exact vehicle. But, so, these bolts that hold the actual radiator to the body of the truck, those are 13 millimeters. They are not 15s. As well as the condenser is held to the radiator as well. If you move these little flaps here, there's going to be a 10 millimeter bolt. I already pulled this one out, but that's where the 10 millimeter bolt is. I'll show you on this side. Right underneath the flap there. There it is. So there's two on each side, or one on each side, and I'm pretty sure the condenser separates from the radiator, but if I find that I was wrong, I will definitely let you guys know and update the video. 1 second, I'll be back with some more of this. Alright everybody, I'm back. So, radiator's out of the car. My quick disconnects have, or not so quick disconnects, have been taken out. Here's one, the other one's down there. It's on a hard line. It doesn't really bend all the way up here. So that took up last, like, I don't know, 4 hours. So how I ended up getting those out of the bottom of that radiator. This is the new radiator. This is what they look like. And this one's loose. This is what it looks like on the inside. So the old ones are single O-ringed connectors. These are double O-rings, so hopefully they'll keep from any leaking. But you see that spring steel in there is what holds that tube in there, the transmission cooler. And yeah, that did not want to let go, even with the special tool. What I ended up doing is jamming two very tiny screwdrivers and some picks in there. And I was able to release it that way. Other than that, I just literally pulled the radiator out of the vehicle after I disconnected those quick disconnect connectors from the actual radiator itself. I just used, I know a 7/8 isn't big enough, but I just used a fits-all wrench, Crescent, your partner in crime, and got that out. So for the next part, I'm just going to go ahead and pop the new radiator back in. I don't think there's anything else really that needs to be done beyond new radiator and giving it a good flush. So I'll be back here in just a bit during the assembly process if I run into any roadblocks or have any other bits of useful information for you guys. So I'm back. Got radiator back in here. Pretty much goes back in the way it came out. Just drops in. It rests on tabs down there. If you can see, it's right there above those hoses. There's a bracket they rest on. Got my fan back in and tightened back up. Radiator's in. I did have to swap these side panels. They're just one bolt and they pop off. And the bottom is notched and everything like that. So they just pop right back onto the new radiator. This is the AC line with that weird Christmas tree fitting there. Word to note, this new radiator did not come with the U-nuts for all these holes. So I did have to steal those off of the old radiator. I'll put the lower shroud back in. Let me show you guys what happened down below here. So here is one of the tranny cooler lines. So that's back in there with the locks that Ford had on there from the get-go. So made sure I kept that. Only thing from the new radiator that was removed and reused from the old one was the drain plug. I didn't really like the way that the new one's little wings here were really short and stubby and really hard to hold on to, as well as it felt really cheap. So just pulled my old one. It's the one that was on the original radiator from Ford, so that's been put on the radiator. But otherwise, lower hose, I clipped that back into place. Shroud has lights. Here we go. There's one bolt here, and about the same place on the other side, there's another bolt for the lower shroud. Other than that, pretty straightforward. Think all in all, the entire job, I used the wrench for about maybe 3 to 4 bolts on the radiator shroud itself, as well as I don't know, I'd say maybe 15 to 16 bolts all in total. But I'm going to finish up the rest here. This was the bracket for the clutch, electronically controlled clutch. So there's electrical connection. That is hooked up. Where is that? It's lost back there somewhere. I think it's underneath the power steering reservoir. There it is. So that just plugs into there. And like I said, this is only in the 2006 and newer Ford Explorers. For Mercury Mountaineers, I think they started using these newer style clutches from the 2005 model year and forward. So that would be the only difference from the older Gen 3, I think, Explorers. But otherwise, the engine itself is exactly the same engine from, I don't know, I think they've been using this since like 92 or something like that. So pretty much the same V6 from the older models that look, you know, similar to this one here. This is what it looks like. But yeah, got all those back. I'm going to go ahead and reconnect my upper hose, put my upper shroud on, recovery bottle, and fill her up with coolant. But other than that, you know, the only words of advice I have to you guys, if you do this, make sure you flush your radiator through with clean water a few times before, you know, filling up with coolant and, you know, calling it good. You want to make sure if there was any crap in the, you know, flowing through the engine, that's been pulled out. Other than that, make sure you also top off your transmission, since on this model, like I was saying earlier, 2006 and newer have a transmission cooler that's built into the radiator. And that's for the Ford Explorer. For the Mercury Mountaineer, I believe that started in 2005 model year. But make sure you top off your transmission. I will be doing a video on doing a transmission flush because the cooler in the old radiator was actually leaking. And it leaked coolant into my transmission. So I'll be doing a video on that pretty shortly here on how to do a full flush. This thing doesn't really get driven very much. It sits at home a lot, so not that bad. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment in the video or message me directly. Otherwise, if you want to see more, please feel free to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys.